Steve. How are you doing, Mr. Larratt?
We should do a bloody takeout blog.
By the way, it's lovely for you.
On YouTube, millionaire.
People don't realise we've been talking before this call. Thanks very much for joining LSE Sharetalk today.
Not a problem, Alex. I'm always free and open to do blogs, chats, talks, questions and answers, anything anyone ever wants.
Well, I must admit, your blogs are very in-depth, honest, and you share everything. It's quite good, like.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a case of, with my job, I can get a lot of time sat around waiting for things to happen. So I just take the time out to sit back, share the knowledge, share the research, and I'm up to about 600 hours now on research over the last year. Wow. So why not share it? Why not give other people the information? There's people that have got families, so haven't got a lot of time to research, and they're just trying to better their home lives. There's people that work day in, day out, hard at work, and why not share that knowledge? Why not share that information in an easy format to read and understand as well?
Yeah, it's very commendable what you're doing, and like you said, we work together obviously with the blog, and me and you. What people don't realise when you're doing these blogs, the amount of conversation and research that goes into it, and with you and ourselves before we actually publish it. And it's very, very in-depth.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work to put it together, to put it in a easy-to-read format. You've got to make sure everything is obviously public domain. It's got to be worded correctly. We always put the information across to Dave Wall, so he can sit there, he can have a look at it, he can interpret it and say, yes, I'm happy with that, just so we're not misrepresenting the company. And that enables both myself and you to be sort of respectable and open with our train of thoughts and obviously comments written within the blogs. And again, via the Q&A session, it's about getting the knowledge out there for people to be able to read and, base their own decisions upon their own trading strategies.
Yeah, I'd agree. To be honest, some of the stuff we do is, we check it, it's in the public domain, so obviously we're happy to go with it. But we did, like I said, we had one little thing with Dave Wall when we were going to put something out, and we did run it past him, and obviously he wanted us to hold on to it, so we do respect the company's position when they request that.
Yeah, definitely. Basically, he came back and said that some of my research was done on sort of old data, basically. And the army originally went out and started drilling Alaska to see what was what. Back in the early 1900s, the United States Geographical Survey went out and they've done a lot of drills all over the Alaskan tundra. And they've got this amazing data set that they've been able to pull together. So that was the basis of the research that I pulled together, and again cross-correlated it with Paul Wyszynski's data and knowledge, and there's a whole wealth of information out there on the internet that if you spend a bit of time, you can sit down, you can have a look at everything between porosities, permeabilities, total organic content, even down to things as silly as the pollen count. And that will obviously make a different type of oil. So with the basis of drill research off the Alaskan Department of Oil and Gas's website, and then cross-correlating it with data from old drills that have gone on, you're able to make a very accurate representation of the known facts of the Alaskan area. And this is obviously what Paul Wyszynski's used in his data to basically say this is the ice-line acreage, this, based upon my knowledge and research, is where I want to be drilling. And I've almost sort of hung on to the shirt tails of him. If he's able and willing to put his life savings on the drilling here in Alaska, I can see no better recommendation for also doing so. But it's a basis of my previous stocks and shares that I've been in. It's more of a punt as opposed to more knowledge and research and being happy to hold.
He's a very interesting character with a very, very interesting background. As you said in your last blog, his connections with the previous company. The ConocoPhillips connection.
Yeah, I mean, if you study Paul Brzezinski and his background, he worked for ConocoPhillips. He's very much the oil and gas guru, if you like. And he's basically written the book, got the T-shirt, and took the company down to Eagle Ford and proved up the play there. And it's been a sort of a world changer within the world of oil. His knowledge and research is, second to none.
Yeah.
There's no one that can touch him in that respect. So whilst he was with ConocoPhillips, he basically studied the North Slope with them for 4 years, and he has come up with the vapor phase theory, which is basically where a gas or an oil turns into one or another. So based upon the depth, pressure, and all of the research material that's out there, he was able to say within a very high degree of certainty that this is the area I want to drill, this is the depth I want to drill to, this is what we will find. And he put research papers out there and his knowledge out there in black and white for all to see. And obviously he left ConocoPhillips, and it was almost a perfect match, if you like. He's off looking for someone, and AAE's come along and, come on board.
As you know, we don't tip shares at LSE Sharetalk. We're just an information poll. Obviously, you know that. It's just for the listeners. But just looking at him, it's an amazing catch for them to get him. He's 6 years into this job now.
Yeah, I mean, 6 years is a long time to be working on a play and not be correct. AAE's background, obviously, back in the Tangiers Petroleum days, it was a case of that was a total wildcat drill in Morocco, not based on any sort of great degree of certainty, so the chance of success was very minimalistic. So Dave Hall has obviously taken over the running of the company at a very difficult time. And, it's a perfect amalgamation of Paul Brzezinski and Dave Hall, who is obviously 100% open and honest with everything. And he himself is a breath of fresh air within the AIM community.
Yeah, I must admit he's been very good with us in the past, and he did the Q&A session with us, and we've actually covered the company. I can't remember now. It must be from around spot 4 last year, and it's just amazing the journey in such a short time it's reached.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from inheriting a company, obviously, where the share price has fallen drastically from Tangiers, he has, obviously, people don't realise this, but he has got a working knowledge of the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
He used to do research himself within the oil and gas community, and he used to work for a very well-respected company. So for him to step into the breach, if you like, it was almost a natural progression for him. He's got a sound working knowledge, he knows what he's talking about, and he stepped in, obviously, on the basis that Paul Brzezinski was there looking for funding, he was going to get funding from other private investors, sort of multi-millionaires, to prove up the theory and find the oil. With the downturn in markets, they pulled out. They've all stepped in, and he's now obviously steering the company to success. Again, long-term hold will reap rewards and dividends.
I was going to touch on that as well, because you look across social media today, not just the only place, but these investors, the one jammed today. But I think the sticky investors are the wise ones, the ones that come in the beginning and then buy in the dips, know the background of the company, and then they follow the story, just like you're doing today.
Well, the investment market has changed drastically over the last few years. Whereas before you used to be able to put money into a company, leave your whole sort of holding there for a while, and then draw it out with a nice healthy profit, it's now a case of people are happy to take 20% and walk away. And obviously with social media, there's definitely a air of investor versus long-term holder in the market. So with the way the investment markets have gone over the last few years, a lot of people are out for making a quick gain, 10-20% of the portfolio, and walking away. These are your sort of day traders, your in and outs as you put them. So, but with a lot of people, with ATT now, with gold markets, potentially we're looking at going into a recession sort of worldwide. So people want to move, for instance, into gold. So a long-term hold with the correct companies will obviously reap rewards and dividends. Price of oil is low. The sentiment in the market is low. So if you can get in nice and early on any investment, and that's what the key word is there, investment, you will reap not only the reward of the company finding the oil, proving up the oil, selling the oil on, or the land or the acreage, or potentially with a farm-in or a farm-out partner. That will be the key thing with an oil company. So, for instance, at the minute we're farming in a partner as opposed to farming out, and basically the two differences is, whereas what we're looking for is a partner to come in and they will have the overall majority of the well. So for instance, they might take 70%, they might take 80%, as opposed to the other way around where we would hold the majority of the well. So with that in mind, obviously people are willing to, at this moment in time, come on board. They're willing to fund the drills. We might get a free carry on the drills, which would be obviously the best thing going forward for ATT at this moment in time. It's a case of proving up the oil, and then production, as everyone in their right mind can see for ATT, for instance. They know it's going to be a year or two before we can actually start producing in the scales and the volumes that we need to do. But at the minute, we're not a production company, we're an exploration company. And that's what people need to remember. So long term, prospects for ATT, for gold companies, everything where the sentiment in the market is now on a reversal, this is the time to get on board if you're going to be a long-term holder. Along the way, there are going to be peaks, there are going to be troughs. It's a natural progression of the company. Now, I'm not after chasing a quick buck. I'm happy holding in companies for the longer term. And that's where I am on the market. And there needs to be this differential between the traders and the long-term holders, the investors within the company. So for ATT at the moment, via obviously Twitter, There's lots of people that I've listened to the blogs I've done, obviously via yourself, and when the sentiment in the market went from sort of point 0.5, point 0.6 area, and the market makers dropped it down to sort of the point 0.3 area, a lot of people were thinking, shall I sell? Well, the fundamentals of the company were exactly the same. The drill reports we were getting through from Dave Wall, from Paul Kaczynski, were in line with their expectations or better. Now, that's the key thing there. So lots of people were doubling up on their holdings, obviously at the lower levels. As the share price has risen, obviously since beginning of February, lots of people have sold their initial holding off, and they're now leaving a large sum of money to free ride. Now, loads of people have come through to me saying, thank you for putting the research and the knowledge out there. Thank you for saying, if you believe in the company still, average down at those lower amounts. Well, that has been the basis of a lot of people now sitting on a large pot of cash that they've already got profit for, but there's still a large holding within the company based on the individual private investors, strategy.
Yeah.
So with sticky fingers, it isn't only long-term holders like myself, it is people that have made a short-term gain. They're now leaving shares to free float within the company for the longer term. And, people might want to take 20%, 30%. That's brilliant. Good on them. If they've got a basis for doing that, if they can obviously share the knowledge on that, absolutely brilliant. Everyone's on the market to make money. It's how you go about making that money and your ethos and philosophy behind that. That's the key thing. So that's the difference between sort of the sticky holder, if you like, and the day traders. If everyone makes money, brilliant. I'm in AAE for the long run, and obviously a lot of people via Twitter obviously holding them free shares. So they're very much in it for the long term. The potential of AAE is phenomenal.
It's definitely an interesting story, and you've actually nailed it when you're using the words 1 to 2 years. That's where a lot of these people are forgetting. They're just looking short term. They're not looking at the fundamentals, and you can apply that to any company, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. If you have a look back at other companies where people were trying to do sort of short-term trades on them, the key one, that's sort of almost a mirror image, if you like, of AKT, was a company called Cove. Now, they came along, people were trying to trade them for a few extra pence. When they were at 10p, all of a sudden, a major came on board, took the company over for £2.40 per share. And again, that in itself is a story. If you want to come in and come out, you could potentially miss massive gains. So it's always wise to leave a holding within a company if you can see a long-term holding. If you can do that on a free-run basis, then even better. You don't need to worry about that profit. You don't need to worry about that cash. It is definitely a long-term hold based upon the oil markets, based upon gold, silver, your mining companies, etc. going forward. So price of oil set to rise. We're looking like we're going to go into that recession again. So all your multi-millionaires who obviously don't generally tend to make mistakes in the markets, they're looking for safer long-term plays. So again, your gold, your oil, etc., etc.
Yeah, and also the the Cove connection, what you've just touched on, is obviously now a part of 88E Energy.
Yeah, not a lot of people out there actually realise that one of the people on the board of directors, his name's Steve, so also a good name to be in connection with the company. He was a old board of director member for Cove. So he enabled the company to obviously go from the pennies up to pounds. And, I think the consensus with people that have obviously talked to me about it is that AKT with Paul Basinski, etc., it's going to be a massive play in the long term. So I believe they brought him on board for his wealth of knowledge and obviously his past expertise in the area.
It's definitely interesting. Can I just digress slightly, Steve? Because people listening to this will be interested in your views. What other companies or stocks do you hold, or what are you looking at? What are you interested in at the moment, please?
Well, basically, my previous past has been within sort of more secure stocks. So I originally started investing sort of 6-7 years back. I was only putting like small amounts in whilst I learnt the market, whilst I learnt the movements, whilst I learnt what to look for and how to sort of make money on my investments. So when I had a look at different companies, obviously the oil and gas companies is around about 10% to 20% or so will only hit oil, and then it's a long-term hold until the company's making, obviously, money on it.
Yeah.
So, again, you look at companies like Rockhopper, Gulf Keystone Petroleum, that's when I started investing, when I was looking at those sorts of companies. Now, one of the first oil plays I had to look at was Desire. Rockhopper already had their sort of deal done upon the well, whereas Desire was valued at half of that amount, so around about the 10p. So that was one of my first sort of oil punts, if you like.
All right.
Make some money out of it, full well knowing that the company would take Desire off the table and buy their sort of proportion of the well out. So overnight, I doubled my money on that. So with other companies I've looked at, I've been invested in, I've had a look at Greg the Bakers, I looked at Lloyd's after the downturn in the markets, so I've made a lot of money on Lloyd's from 20p up to the 90s.
Yeah.
I then considered that to be slightly overvalued. I then had a look at other companies and I saw one with a very long-term growth perspective, lots of upcoming news, called Melrose Industries, MRO. So I placed most of my holding from Lloyd's into MRO. Recently, I called out, obviously, my entry point for Lloyd's would be at around about 55p per share, give or take. And I've watched the share price go down. My Melrose Industries holding has substantially increased there. So with AKT, all I've done is drawn amounts out from Lloyd's as and when the share price has become depressed. I've averaged down. I've increased my holding. Full well-known fundamentals were still the same. And I've then moved my Melrose Industries holding back over to Lloyd's. Thankfully, the day before, they announced that they're going to start paying a dividend. So,
well done.
Short-term movements, bit of luck involved, absolutely brilliant. I probably wouldn't have obviously moved my MRO over if the share price was still around about the sort of 270 mark. But as it was well above the £3 mark. So I was happy to obviously sell part of my holding there and put it into Lloyd's.
All right.
So I've always got a large pot of money there. So if the share price does fall and the fundamentals are the same on my sort of AIM holdings, I will always try and average down for the long-term sort of goal, if you like.
Yeah, get a free ride. Upside.
That's it. It's a case of I'm only playing around with profits now, so I'm happy sort of holding long-term on AKT. I've not sold a penny of my AAE holdings, and I'm here for the long haul with AAE because the amount of, potential that is there is absolutely incredible, and we are only on the bottom rung of the ladder.
Yeah.
So why go out too early when you know full well further down the line we could have conventional in play? There could potentially be a buyout. We've got joint venture partners, farm-in partners, farm-out partners. We've got the price of oil to rise. What's not to like about that situation? In nice and early, you don't need to worry about your holding. You just hold long and strong, as the saying goes, and you reap the rewards further down the line when you could potentially even be producing for yourselves.
Could be life changing. It could be life changing for holders. Can I just touch on one thing before you go, Steve? You're working on a project right now. Do you want to share what you're doing, please?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing. It's still on its infancy stage, but I've had a lot of productive meetings and obviously chatted with people, with celebrities, and they're willing to come on board and be a patron to it.
All right.
Acceptably, with all my knowledge and research, blogs, the amount of people that have come through to me and have basically said, you've changed my life. I put £10,000 in at 0.3. I've just sold all my holding. I've got £40,000 now sat in the bank. I can afford to do my house up. I can take my children on a holiday. I can now pay my mortgage off. It's already been life-changing for so many people, and there's so many different reasons. There's a gentleman who, due to his poor health, can't live in the UK, and friends and family were doing charity fundraisers to try and help him move to a hotter climate so he can have a better quality of life. And he came through and said, Steve, your knowledge, your research has enabled me to put my savings into AKT. He got in at 0.35 and he sold out at 2.5p per share. And he said, what you've done for me there is the pressure is now off my friends and family. I'm now going to be able to move to Spain and have a better quality of life. So on the back of all these stories, I've had literally via Twitter, I've had hundreds of people, even people that don't follow me, come through to direct message, and they said, look, you've made me a load of money here. I want to buy you a drink. If you're ever in the area, let me know. I've had offers of free holidays to different countries where people work, everything along those lines.
Yeah.
So what I've done is, off the back of that, I've set up a charity before, which involved running a youth club. So I've come up with the idea of actually opening a charitable organisation, and we've already got the name in place. And we've already got the sort of legalities, structure of the charity sort of done and dusted. So it's now a case of the government need to approve the charity and the organisation. So with that in mind, the charity's name is Share and Care.
All right.
So what it will enable people to do is, if there's a person out there that's well respected, if there's a person out there who you offer, as a way of a thanks, instead of buying them a pint, all they've got to do is say, look, mate, that will never ever come to fruition in 95% of cases. So what this will enable you to do is, let's say you've made £1,000 off the back of someone's research, off the back of their information. Someone says, wow, look at this company. Just by saying thanks to that person, you can chip them a £5, you can chip them a £10. Yeah? That in itself, across the Twitter community and across the sort of broader range, if you like, this charity will hold no bars, it will have no agenda. It is literally a case of whoever wants to come on board can come on board. So we can have AEVFM, we can have Hot Copper, we can have LSE, we can have Twitter. We can literally just send a link out, and we can just have literally a pot of money where people can say, thank you very much, you know, and we can literally each month even, we can say, right, we want to give money to these charities. What one do you want to do? We can hold a poll on it. We can have a long-term charity. We can have shorter-term charities. And it will literally be run, obviously by myself, but it will be the people that decide where the funds go, how the funds are disseminated.
I like it.
Your money, you know, and that's literally all it is. I mean, if I added together, you know, obviously via other talk and chat rooms that I was on, I've literally got about 400 people now on an email account, and I've got 750 or so followers on Twitter. Now, out of them, 70 or 80% of them have said, Steve, I want to buy you a drink, I want to pay for a meal, come up here, I'll pay for your hotel. You know, that could potentially run into hundreds. If that amount of people put, say, £10 into a pot, you're talking nearly £100,000 worth of money that can go to charities, and it'll bring an amazing feel-good factor across every single board, and it will show, obviously, they're not ruthless, they're not constantly after money. It is literally about getting out and about, showing people that we care, and obviously disseminating the funds and going forward. So, I mean, touching story, back on my sort of early days of posting, unfortunately not on Twitter.
Yeah.
There's a poster on another forum called Busy Mama Free, and she has got such a heartwarming story. And I've obviously said to her in the past, you know, I'm working on something, watch this space. And it's coming to fruition now. Obviously, we've got famous people that want to come on board and be patrons of the charity, and she will be the first donation that I will be putting out. Even if no one donates, I'll be putting some of my own money towards her, so that she can obviously show appreciation to the people that have helped her in her life, the carers, the givers, the people that are understated within the realms of the society today. So, I mean, that's my ongoing project.
All right.
And obviously, forget about the shares, that's a byproduct. You know, this sort of charity means so much to so many people. There's so many respected people out there that are blogging, tipping. You know, if we can all jump on board, society will become a better place. Within the bulletin boards, there should be no fighting, no arguments. We've all got our own individual agendas, but this charity could obviously amalgamate everyone across all realms. So that's the hope, that's the vision, that's the dream going forward. So, you know, just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and fingers crossed we can obviously move forward with that.
So, Steve, honest, me and you have a lot of phone calls, and we talk about a lot of things. And I do know a lot of stories how people's lives have been changed through investing, following your information as well, and your charity thing. It sounds absolutely commendable, and you're a breath of fresh air, and it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, sir.
Yep, that's absolutely brilliant, Alex. And as I said, I'm always an open book. Questions, answers, direct messages. People have got my email address that talk to me on a regular basis. I'm always open for discussion, interpretation, anything, you know. I'm not in the shares game for my own personal benefit or my own personal gain. It's about sharing the knowledge. I've always said there's people out there, for instance, Busy Mama Free. She's put some money into the company on the hope and the basis that she can, you know, for instance, take her daughter on a holiday perhaps, or be able to not worry about money as much, you know. And it's those sorts of stories that have come back to me that make me sharing my knowledge worthwhile.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. It's about, no agendas, open book. You want to have a discussion, have a discussion. I've always been open, and that's the way I will always be and always remain.
We talk a lot, obviously, and I know you, Steve. You're very commendable. By the way, thanks very much for talking to LSE Sharetalk today, and we will catch up in the near future, I'm sure, with 88E. All right, Steve?
Yeah, definitely. We've got lots of news in the pipeline and full results to come out, independent resources report to come out, and that for a lot of people is going to sort of show the way of the company and be able to put some sort of dollar value on 880 going forward. And I'll be there to report on it and interpret anything as we go forward.
Absolute gentleman. All right. Thanks, Steve.
Not a problem, Alex. Thank you very much for your call.